Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is after 6:30, so we are going to go ahead and call to order the September 27th meeting of the Advisory Committee for Redistricting. Today's a work session. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will please stand and join me. Thank you. It's missing from our agenda, but it's all absolutely welcome and encouraged. We have public comment next.
Madam Chair, we have one public comment card and 2 electronic comments.
Excellent.
We'll have Eugene Staccardo. Will you please step up to the podium and give us your name and address for the record?
Eugene Staccardo, 331 Roswell Avenue, Orlando, Florida. Reading the resolution of the redistricting, I have a couple questions about an observation. On page 7 of the resolution, section 5, meeting the section D3, non-commissioned district boundary adjustments map items. I don't know what that means. I've read that a number of times trying to figure out what that meant. And maybe someone can explain that to me. The second item is, there was a lot of discussion at the first meeting about something on page 8, section 7, and it's a procedural thing. Paragraph B, second item, the committee may, by joint motion of co-chairs, approval of a committee members, adopt additional committee procedures. My understanding of Robert Rules of Order, this is a procedure relating to the extension of Robert Rules of Order unique to this commission, and any commission can do this. But this board, in my reading of the resolution, this is the only major restriction, besides the scheduling that the co-chairs have to have authority over, and also trying to keep the meetings tight, and that's mentioned in this document. Otherwise, it's a Robert Rules of Order stand as the book is written, with the exception of the way you extend your Robert Rules by co-chairs agreeing to it, so which is fine. But beside that, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Staccardo. Dan, do you want to?
Okay, we do have 2 electronic submitted comments, and for these I will state the person's name and the topic of their message. The first comment is from Donalyn Ginther, the topic being political affiliations. The second electronic comment is from Corey Goodman, the topic being Liberate Bithlo. That ends the electronic comments.
Thank you. It goes much faster when you just do it that way. Couldn't finish writing notes before you could finish. Thank you.
Madam Chair, is that going to be available for us electronically, or is that going to be somewhere that we could read it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, they'll be posted to the resources for each of the committee meetings. Yes.
One of those topics interests me.
So next thing on our agenda is jumping into the data dashboard. But before we do,
We do have one more submitted public comment for in person, and that is for, excuse me, it's from Jim Callan. So I believe, if you can please step to the microphone, please state your name and your address for the record.
Good evening, co-chairs and members of the 2021 Orange County Redistricting Advisory Committee. My name is Jim Callahan. I live 2 blocks from here at the Grant Downtown Condominium, 204 East South Street, Unit 3052. I've been a registered voter in Orange County for more than 30 years. I am CEO and data science of Callahan Data Science, LLC. The interest of Callahan Data Science, LLC is to scoop out all the maps, data, and software generated as a result of this process after the County Commission adopts a plan and use that information for consulting purposes. But during the redistricting process itself, I am strictly a volunteer. 10 years ago, I attended many of the sessions of the 2011 Redistricting Advisory Committee. Tonight, there will be a presentation on the Caliper redistricting software, which will display maps and calculate compactness scores for districts. I've not seen this software yet, but I urge you to pay close attention to the compactness scores for Orange County Commission District Number 5, as it has a very big wingspan and is not a compact circle or square. District 5 was gerrymandered for a previous incumbent, defeated by Commissioner Emily Bonilla. In my opinion, the District 5 gerrymander needs to be fixed as part of this committee's work. This committee's legal presentation cited the Voting Rights Act lawsuit, Zoraida Rios Andino versus Orange County. I am very familiar with that trial because I happened to attend and observe that trial as a member of the public. Zoraida Rios Andino was the first of 3 named plaintiffs, and the plaintiffs were represented by a civil rights organization, Latino Justice PRLDEF, PRLDEF. Latino Justice was originally founded as the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund, but was changing its name to the more inclusive Latino Justice. In the trial, Latino Justice was completely out-lawyered by Orange County. It was a rout. The shortest and most relevant version of what happened at trial is that Orange County injected immigration into a voting rights case by convincing federal judge Ann Conway to use citizen voting age population instead of voting age population. CVAP instead of VAP may not sound like a big deal. As an analogy, imagine your team shows up for an American football game only to find the other team has conspired with the umpire to have the field marked off in meters instead of yards, because meters are so much more scientific. And besides, meters are only 3 or 4 inches longer than a yard, about 10%. Is that my time?
Yes, Mr. Callahan.
Let me just say in closing then, I have a written statement, but just in conclusion, I object to the legal fundamentals presentation because it's out of date, incomplete, and therefore misleading. And I have
Mr. Callahan,
a Supreme Court case
Mr. Callahan,
and 3
Mr.
executive
Callahan,
orders.
I appreciate your information. I'm actually quite intrigued by it. However, we have to be fair for this process. And so 3 minutes is 3 minutes,
I'm
but
done.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But I do have some documents to turn in.
Gladly. Do we have any additional public comments?
No, we don't.
Thank you. We're going to move forward with our agenda. Another item that's not on the agenda that's really just a point of information. We are going to have an update from Mr. Reynolds about our location for our meetings on a go-forward basis, and I'll let Mr. Reynolds take it from there.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. Just very recently, we secured Barnett Park for our next meeting, which you all would have was here. That confirmation came today. We realized that in this room there are some logistical challenges. We have 2 people sitting down here. Thankfully, we have 2 people who are not here, so we don't have anyone seated behind one another. Moving to Barnett Park, which is just a couple, maybe 3 miles west of here, will allow the committee members to space out and face the audience as they should in a committee like this. And the audience will be able to space out and see the board. We realize here that in this room there are capacity constraints, and if we did have a large audience, we would be running into issues. So going to Barnett Park fulfills a few of our accomplishments and checks boxes. In primarily, the board members can be spaced out and all facing the group, and the audience can be spaced out and all facing the board members. So will be more communications about that, but that meeting has been changed. That's next Thursday. You all should be all familiar with the dates. That's at 6:30 p.m. Secondly, you all would have been contacted by Mr. Phillips regarding the Orange County email addresses. He communicated to me that everyone he believes has been set up and they're all set. I'll be communicating with you all individually in regards to your desire to use that email address. We do strongly recommend that you use that email address, but we can't mandate you use that email address. So I'll be reaching out to you probably within the next day or so, and as to your desire and explaining why the importance of using that email address. And lastly, all of the committee meetings are updated or on the redistricting webpage. That's www.ocfl.net/redistricting. If you click on future meetings, all of the meetings are there, their locations are there, and their times. So you can begin to populate that information on your respective calendars.
Thank you. We had conversations with the county earlier this week, just kind of talking through the logistics. And while it's challenging to change the schedule in the location, I agree that it was very prudent for us to facilitate a safe environment for us to carry out this process and to give everybody an opportunity to participate. So I thank the county for their leadership on coming up with solutions for this issue. And I have to apologize to everybody. I didn't have my afternoon coffee. We never did roll call. Sorry, y'all. They told me twice to remember to do it. So we're going to pause, and then we will actually get on with the agenda. We're going to start with Mr. Roca. If you want to do, just do your roll call, and everybody will go from left to right.
My name is Julio Rocha, member of the committee, starting the roll call for the Advisory Committee on Redistricting. Thank you.
Good evening, Virginia Whittington, representing District 6, Commissioner Victoria Siblin.
Good evening, Attorney Mark Arias, District 3, Uribe.
Good evening, Attorney James O'Fun, representing District 4, Maribel Gomez Cordero.
Good evening, Tom Callan, representing District 3.
Good evening, Ruth Ann Connor King, representing District 1.
Good evening, Camille Evans, co-chair, representing, appointed by Mayor Demings.
Homer Hardage, representing District 6, Commissioner Siblin.
Wes Hodge, representing District 5, having been appointed by Commissioner Emily Bonilla.
Zachary Hoover, District 1.
Gary Jones, appointed by Mayor Demings.
Joe Kilsheimer, representing District 2.
Jason Mellon, representing District 2.
Thank you all. All right, now I hope everybody's ready to put on their thinking caps and learn. We have a lot to learn, and I appreciate all the work the county staff has done. We're going to get right into the presentation from Mr. Salmons regarding the census data dashboard.
Good evening. I'm Dean Salmons. As our co-chair just said, I'm the county GIS coordinator. And I just want to start by saying how excited I am, as well as our team, to be a part of this process. We've been working hard over the last few months to get our technology and tools up and running. So tonight's finally our opportunity to show these tools off. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment, I did want to introduce a couple of our staff that are in attendance here tonight. With the 2020 redistricting data, which was released back on August 12th, and she's been working with that to get that into a user-friendly format, if you will, so we can all understand this, the data as we go through this process. We also have Pete Johnstone here, and Pete's a senior member of our team. He was a big part of the redistricting efforts for the county back in 2011, and Pete's been working with the online tool extensively, and Pete is actually going to take us through a demonstration / training of that in just a few minutes. So to begin, we've got a couple items we want to discuss this evening and present to you. We do want to spend a few minutes with the redistricting data, and then Pete will be up for that, and then we're going to have a presentation by our Supervisor of Elections Office, who's going to present to us how they use the newly drawn commission district boundaries to create voting precincts. So I'll just go ahead and jump into the dashboard here, get my mouse to work right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So go back here. So what we've done is assembled this data that we received back on the 12th of August. We put it into a user-friendly format. We've added some visual enhancements to the data, some data visualization tools, and then some interactive maps as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into that right now. The mouse here, apologize. Hey, Miles, is there another mouse? I think it's just, I don't know if it's low on battery. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Try now.
1 moment, please. Yeah, please. So to access our dashboard, we'll go right to, this is the county's redistricting website. And if you see on the left over there, there's some blue boxes with text in there. If you scroll down where the mouse is now, that's our census data dashboard. So this is available for anyone to come in and see. So as we link to that, this is our dashboard. There's a number of tabs across the top, and I'm just going to briefly go through these. What the idea of this dashboard is to provide this background information, help give you some perspective and additional context to the data. It's going to give us a shot of both where we are today as well as how we've changed from the 2010 census count. So this is a map we're all probably familiar with. I know it's been requested several times already, but we're looking at our total population there at the 1.429, and then our ideal population, which is the total divided by the 6 districts. And then we have our maximum deviation, and as well our relative mean deviation at 7.41%. So this is just a kind of a baseline of where we are today. And if we can go to the next tab, please. Thank you. There's a lot of information in the dashboard, so you will see it takes a few seconds to load on occasion. But this is just kind of starting off again as a baseline. You can see on the left here under the countywide data box that you've got the 2010 count as well as our most recent count, and then our percent change or growth. In this case, I believe all districts did grow. So then you get your total population count below that. The pie chart that you see there is in an interactive chart. You can hover over that to see the population by race. And there is a legend just below the pie chart where you can gain that same or view that same information, which is the population by race. And then below that we have our ethnicity, which is Hispanic or Latino or non-Hispanic. So it's just a quick, easy way to see this information, some basic statistics. Over to the right, we have that same demographic information, but this is for each district, as well as the ethnicity just below that in the 2 boxes on the left and right. And then if you want some additional information, there's another tab down below where the mouse is there, and this is our 18+ population, which is also our voting age population. So you have those numbers again there, and the breakdown for each of those by district. I think we'll go ahead and jump over to our next tab. This one is a little more there's a few more pie charts on it, I should say. And what we've done is taken that same information from the previous tab, but now we're looking at comparing that to our 2010 counts. So in the middle there in the green text, you get the percent change from 2010 to 2020. And then, these, again, are interactive pie charts, and you can hover over them to obtain the information. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just so I can understand correctly, District 1, the pie chart says race. Am I correct that there's no Hispanic in that pie chart? It says two other races, white,
So
Asian, other race.
are you going to explain the difference in the way that it's reported here?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
I said, are you going to answer his question, explain the difference in how it's reported?
Yes, can you repeat your question? I couldn't hear you.
District 1's pie chart, 268,658 population. In the pie chart, I don't see the Hispanic color. Is that because you have no Hispanics there? Is that what that means?
No, sir. That's just the race that's broken down, not ethnicity.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, so so it gives you a good comparison of how we've changed over the last decade. Marissa, if we could move on to the next tab, please. So this tab's a little different. It's a little more interactive, and it deals with our census-designated places. There are 39 census-designated places within Orange County, and they're all listed here to the right of the map. And the reason these CDPs, as we call them, are important is in a lot of cases, they're well-established populations that aren't incorporated into other jurisdictions, and a lot of times they want to stay together. And in other cases, they may want to be split between districts. So jurisdictions that we'll look at next and these census-designated places are able to be split between districts as you redraw your commission district boundaries. So what we're looking at here to the right of the list is, again, that same demographic breakdown. The colors correspond to the previous charts. And you have your legend down below there. And then, again, your ethnicity in the two boxes below the chart, the legend for the chart. Again, we have another tab if you want to specifically look at the voting age population, just at the bottom down there. And that updates the pie charts as well. So just briefly, I did want to show how you interact with the map. If you choose from the list of census-designated places, there is, I think the first one I wanted to show was Conway. If you could click on Conway, please. So Conway's an older established area. You can see the, I think you've got to hit the blue bar on that. I'm sorry, the mouse isn't working up here. So that the charts update. There you go. Thank you. So the numbers on the right update to reflect that census-designated place as you choose the one that you're interested in. And what we're showing on the map is two things, really. The shaded-in beige area is the 2020 census-designated place boundary, and the red outlined area is the CDP boundary from 2010. So in this case, Conway's almost exactly the same. You can see there hasn't been a whole lot of change in the boundaries of Conway since 2010. And then also you can see that reflected there too in the total growth at only 1% and 129 people in 10 years. So I wanted to show another example of kind of the opposite thing that's taking place just so you're aware, and that would be the Hunters Creek area. So here with Hunters Creek, we have the purple shaded area, which is the current census-designated place boundary. And then we have the red outlined area, which is from 2010. So you can see on this how Hunters Creek has grown significantly, out to the west primarily, it looks like. So those numbers, it's just an example of how CDPs can change over time, not necessarily because new people are moving in, but they've grown in size, or in some cases they've been reduced in size too. So the last CDP I wanted to show just briefly is the Horizon West area. And yeah, so I thought this was a good example, and we all know how much District 1 has grown. And I think this definitely is a contributor to that. You see a huge amount of growth here, 315%, 44,100 individuals. So it's just something to explore at your leisure and look around and try to understand some of these trends as we've changed over the last decade. If we can move on just briefly, their jurisdictions tab.
Question, Madam Chair. Question.
Ms. Whittington?
When you go back to the census designated places, there's an asterisk at the very bottom that says Holden Heights was renamed in 2020 to Holden. Is there something else that I'm missing? Because I can't scroll up.
No. So that's a new CDP. Holden Heights was, so there's two CDPs right there. There's Holden Heights and then Holden Lakes. And so what occurred there is they took the, make sure I get this right. So they took the Holden Heights name. Let me ask Pete on this to clarify on this. They moved it to the north. So they moved Holden Heights to the north of the I think that's the 417 there.
I-4.
No.
And that's I-4.
The what?
I-4.
I-4. That's I-4. I'm sorry. I'm way off. And then you have the new CDP Holden Lakes to the south. And that's a recent change.
Okay. I'll ask offline.
Mr. Callen?
The question I got on the CDP, who designates those?
Those are designated by the Census Bureau.
Okay. Does that correspond with the zip codes and post offices?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Any other questions right now? Go ahead, Dean.
Okay. Thanks. Just like the census designated places, however, we're just focused on the 13 jurisdictions within Orange County. And if we click on the Oakland, City of Oakland, let's give you a quick example of what we're looking at. And this is, what we've done here is the shaded area is, again, or not again, but the shaded area is the city limits of Oakland, and those areas that have been, that are highlighted in green, those are areas that have been annexed into the city since the 2010 count. And if you go to the top right of the map, there's a map legend that explains this too, if you forget. So you can see that's a 2010 boundary versus the 2020 boundaries that are shaded in. And then if you click that, of course, the numbers update the demographics, the ethnicity breakdown as well. And then again, you have a tab at the bottom for your voting population. Our next tab, I'm just going to hit on this briefly. There's a lot of information in this tab. It's a fully interactive map. You've got a number of layers here. What's neat about this, on the left-hand side, you're able to turn these layers on and off, or toggle them. And right now we're looking at all our census-designated places throughout the county. But I did want to highlight a couple of our point layers that we created to give you a little more perspective on what the individual census blocks look like. So if we go to, we'll turn on the white, if you could turn on the white and black race group, I think it's a good illustration. What these are, these points represent the specific demographic makeup of a census block. So it kind of gives you an idea as well as where these populations reside within the county. But if you zoom in here and just underneath the layer on the left, you'll see a range of percentages there. And if you click on a dot, which represents a census block, you can get the makeup of that block. So in this case, we have 55 individuals living in that census block, of which 53 are white. So that puts it in the 80 to 100% category. So you'll see that dot that is shaded a bit darker. And then you can see on the left how that works with the percentage range. So it's something that, you know, you could spent a lot of time on, looking around, understanding. And we've done this for each race group as well, each demographic, and as well as the ethnicity, too, if you want to. So you have that there. And this is something to explore at your leisure. You know, if you can't sleep at night, you might want to spend some time with this, or you're really bored. I don't know, but there's a lot of good information in here.
Dean?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. I think you said that there was a way to show the census designated places on here as well?
Yes, correct. So if you go back to our layer list, you can see there's a variety of layers here. That's right there in the list.
Thank you.
So I just had a couple more on this tab. I don't want to take up too much time, but one of the layers we created just to show change over the last decade is what we're calling our census blocks with boundary changes. So we took the old blocks from 2010, compared them to our new 2020 blocks, and where there were substantial changes, we flagged those areas, and that's what you're looking at on the map. Those darker colored areas are where there's been more significant change between the 2010 and 2020 block boundaries. Now, change doesn't necessarily mean growth. There's a number of changes that can occur. The census created a lot of new blocks. They got rid of some blocks from 2010. They redrew some, reshaped them. But I wanted to focus on this area real quick, Turkey Lake Park. I just wanted to use it as an example to kind of introduce you to the census blocks. Right now, if you would turn that off, please, Marissa, that shaded block. And if we turn on our 2010 blocks, they're here in purple. You can see they're very irregular. There's not always a lot of rhyme and reason to them. The census creates these blocks, and what's important to note is that these blocks cannot be split as you draw commission district boundaries. They have to stay intact as a block. And when Pete shows our tool to us here in just a few minutes, he's going to cover more of this, and I think it'll be pretty straightforward as far as that. So, but what I wanted to highlight in this area as well is if you turn on the 2020 census blocks, you can see there's a difference. And then if you turn off the 2010, you'll see that a lot of those blocks that were there in purple have now been absorbed into the larger green census block that encompasses Turkey Lake Park. So that's all done by the census. It's just, it could be useful information as you go through this and maybe answer questions. It's the idea of showing this. So there's a lot there. I'm going to go ahead and finish up. We're just going to jump into the last tab quickly. And what we have here is our...
Hold on. Can you give us 1 second? Mr. Hardage?
Thank you. Can you go back and click on just the tab that shows the 2020, the one that we'll be following, the census tract?
Did you want to go back to Turkey Lake Park or just view it as a whole?
Just want to know how to make sure I know which one we're modeling against. We're modeling against the 2020 numbers.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure I know where that is.
Right.
Gotcha. Got it.
Okay, so the last, we ready for the last tab? I'm sorry. Sorry, did you want to spend some time on that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Thank you.
Fully. You good? Okay. So our last tab is our map gallery or our map download area. What we've done here is put up a bunch of maps that really it's a result of a lot of the questions and requests we had back in 2011 as to what's where. And so we created a number of maps. You can peruse through this gallery. These maps are in PDF format, so they're easy to download and share. You can download them at the top right, and then you can print from right there. And this is this map here is a dot density map. You'll see a number of these, a series of these maps. We have both the 2010 and 2020 dot density maps. And in this case, each dot on the map represents 100 individuals. And then we've included a table to your right of the map legend, giving you the population change from 2010 to 2020 and % of total population by district. So again, it's something you could, on your own time, feel free to look through these, and hopefully they can provide you with some answers to your questions. If we could just go back real quick, the last thing I wanted to mention If you do have any comments or questions, there is a link on the top right up there next to the orange. That's our GIS hotline, and we can answer any questions or take comments on this as well. So feel free to call us up. And then there's the ability to share to the right of that with, if anyone's on Facebook, Twitter, and wants to embed these in other applications. So that's all available to you as well. And so I'm happy to take any questions, or we can move on to Pete and get to the online tool.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Salmons? Mr. Callen?
So I guess this information that you have here, by the way, very well done. Thank you. This serves as a backup or a predicate for our next phase with Mr. Johnston. Is this what this is?
Yes, sir, you're correct. That's the idea. You won't need to use the redistricting tool and create plans. You won't need this information. It's just something extra to look at for get your bearings.
No, with that in mind.
Mr. Alfont?
Are you claiming that these are all the maps that were discussed in 2010? Because I see at least two that are missing.
No, sir, I'm not claiming they're all. There were some of the ones we had. We tried to make as many as we could to be ready for this evening, but we are open to putting other additional maps at the request of the committee or public, if we're able to, put those out there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? I agree. This has been helpful, and we appreciate the work that your team's doing. For those of you who couldn't see, do you want to read that hotline number out for everyone?
Sure, absolutely. It's 407-836-0066, and that's the county's GIS hotline.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, great.
Thank you. We'll move next into the demonstration of our redistricting tool.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pete Johnstone. I'm a GIS analyst here, and I've been working on the redistricting tools that we'll be using during this process. I give us a brief overview, show you how to use it and make maps. I'd like to request that if you could, any questions, if you could hold them till the end of the presentation. There's a good chance that during the course of the presentation, I'll be answering any questions you might have. It's a good deal of technical material to cover. First, I'd like to show you how to access the online redistricting tool. From the redistricting webpage, which is ocfl.net/redistricting, you can go to having a little trouble here. You can go to the on the left toolbar, there's a button for create your own map. If you scroll down further, you'll see draw your map. Both of those will open the redistricting website. When you do get to the redistricting website, the first thing you're going to need to do is create a username. Making a username to make a user requires that you have provide an email, come up with a username and a password. And for the ACR members, you have a handout that tells you a suggested username. The reason we have that suggestion is so that when we go through any maps that are submitted during the process, any plans that are submitted, the username is appended. It's easier for staff to tell who's submitting what. The users from the public can create whatever username that they prefer. When you log in, the help, you'll find out that so the help is open by default. In the upper right corner, you can see the word help. If the help, it'll help you guide you through the process briefly. You can turn it on and off by clicking help in the upper right. You can also change the language in the site. which is a little drop-down box near the help in the upper right as well. So when you do log in, you will see any plans that you've created in a list. If you haven't created anything, there won't be anything in the list yet. The options down the side are open plan, which opens whichever plan you choose. Copy plan allows you to copy the plan and then use that as a starting point. You'll work on the copied plan from there and leave the original alone. Delete plan, you know what that means. New plan, if you go into new plan, you'll have the option to open a shared plan from the existing districts as they are today, or any plans that any user on the site has shared. And I'll go into later in the presentation how to share plans and what that means. If you could open, yes, thank you. So when you open a plan, the first thing you're going to see right in the middle is the map. That's the overall picture of what the plan, your plan looks like that you've been working on. Please note, though, that this is a plan that I created as a demo for this purpose, just to show you how the map works. Create your own plans based on whatever factors you like. The plans, as Dean brought up, are constructed, any district is constructed out of census blocks. Those are our smallest units of geography, and the purpose of this tool is to allow you to move census blocks in groups or individuals between districts to create balanced districts. In the upper left corner, as the toolbar is going along the top, reports, plan integrity, email plan, I'll go into those details later. Just know that they're there. In the upper left corner, there's some navigation tools that help you get around the map. You can zoom in with the magnifying glass with the plus and zoom out similarly. You can also, if you zoom too far or too far out or too far in, you can hit initial map, which is in the upper left. It'll bring you right back to the beginning. Overview. You can also use the hand to pan around and the eye tool to find out more information about whatever might be on the map. So next I'll go over the 4 windows, information windows around the map. In the upper left is the options window. It allows you, it has a scale bar. If you click layers, you can, there's a couple of layers we have. The Commission Districts 2011 will allow you to see the lines as they are now in comparison. You can see them purple on the map in comparison to what you may be drawing. You can turn them on or off in this box. You can also turn off the census designated places if you find that they're a distraction. In the lower left toolbox, window, the districts window, you'll see a summary of each district with the population, the deviation, percent deviation, all the demographics, including voting age population, and that's as is shown on the map, as the current configuration is shown. This box will be updated as you move blocks around the map, and you can keep track of all of the different factors right here. In the upper right, we have the toolbox window. This is where most of the actual redistricting happens. In the toolbox window, we have the first, I'll start at the top and cover it. The first entry there is target. Target is the district that you're moving blocks to. Say you wanted to move blocks from District 4 to District 3. In this presentation, or in this demo plan I made, you can see on the map there's a 3 with a negative 5.76, 4 with 9.46. So if you wanted to try to balance that out, move a section of District 4 into District 3, you set your target to District 3. That's where you want to move your areas to. The source you can set, we'll set it from District 4. That's where we want to pull blocks from. There's also another option in the source menu for all. If you're working in an area that has multiple districts adjacent to each other and you want to just pull blocks from districts 4 and 5 at the same time, you can do that. You could also set it to just District 4, and it would only pull from District 4, so you couldn't accidentally pull blocks from the wrong district. Across the tools that you'll actually be using to redistrict, the first one is the point tool. What happens is you select the tool, and when you click on a block, it'll be highlighted. You may have noticed down in the lower right in the changes window, it says pending changes. It has District 3 and District 4, and it's showing the percent deviation, all the demographics, and what it is showing there is that's what those two districts will look like if you finalize these changes, if you decide to make these changes. If you open the districts window in the lower left, that remains unchanged until you actually accept the changes you want. So you can use this to compare what it is on the left to what it would be if you make these changes on the right.
I don't see Hispanic. Is it further down?
So the circle selection tool in the toolbox in the upper right, I'm going back to the upper right with the last few selection tools. The circle lets you select by drawing a circle. The select by polygon tool allows you to start drawing a polygon around an area. You'd most likely use this if you want to move a lot of blocks at once. When you draw around what you're interested in, and when you've finished, you double click to finish the drawing. If you've decided, well, these aren't really the areas that I'm interested in, or I want to look at something else, or I don't like this, you can hit the little X to clear all of the selected blocks from consideration. I'll go through a couple more. We'll select this area again. We'll go review selecting with polygon tool. This is something I'll mention later on in the plan. That's actually at one of my very last comments. The site is set up to time out after 40 minutes of inactivity. We had it up and ready before the meeting, and then that's what's happened. When it does happen, any changes you've saved or you've made will be saved. The site saves continuously as you work. If it times out because of inactivity, it'll be right back where you left off. So one of the things that I haven't mentioned yet is with the selection tool, with the point tool, you can use the selection point tool to, if you've chosen blocks that you don't want, you can click on them and take them back out of your areas for consideration. When you have changes the way you'd like them to be, that's sufficient. Please go ahead and you can hit the checkbox to accept the changes. If you open up the changes window on the lower right, please. And clear those, thank you. Those, any changes that were pending there have now been implemented into the districts window on the lower left, which you should open if you can. Thank you. So you can see that when we're moving a lot of blocks at once, some of the edges on the south side of the B line are beach line now. Some of the edges are less than smooth. Please zoom full. You can correct that pretty readily if you zoom into the areas you want to even out. If you zoom in a little bit further, you'll see that the population for each block shows as you zoom in closely, and that's the aid in making smaller changes. So you can see some of these blocks, 267, 806 people, and that's to aid you. So if you want to move blocks, you've accidentally moved some blocks into District 3 that you want to be in District 4, you change the target to District 4. You select the blocks you want to move and click OK to move them. All right, so you've got your plan the way you like it. You zoom back to the full scale. You find that you've made a plan that you like and you want to find out more about it. In the reports menu in the upper left, you have a population summary report, which you can run. If you select, you can select demographics that you're interested in seeing in the report, and then you hit OK to run the report. I should note that the report will not run unless you select at least one demographic. There's a limitation of the software, but it shows a breakdown of each district in this plan. The relative overall range is the maximum deviation. The relative mean deviation is in here as well. Next, there's also tools built into the software to test the integrity of the plan. Most importantly is contiguous districts, which means you can't have, as was discussed in the legal presentation last time, you can't have areas of districts that are not connected to that same district. You can't have a piece of District 1 in the middle of District 2 surrounded by it. That's not permissible, so the software has tools that allow you to test for this. If you go to the Plan Integrity tool, and when you run it, you can see there's a list of the districts that have problems. So we went to one of them by, you can either double click on the area that's highlighted or click the little magnifying glass. It'll send you there. When the tool zooms to an area that it thinks is problematic, it automatically sets what it thinks the target and source district is. So it thinks that this area should be in District 3. If you look, it's surrounded by District 3. So all you need to do is use the point selection and approve the change. And you can run the non-contiguous districts tool again by hitting the little accept arrow button, and it'll have a pop-up that tells you all districts are contiguous. There's a few more tools in the Plan Integrity that we won't go into too much. You can run the tool to make sure that you haven't accidentally moved an incumbent out of their district, among other things. To email a plan, this allows you to email a plan of course, that's in the name. It allows you to email a plan to any user or any email that you see fit. The plan does not have to meet any regulations or restrictions or legal limitations to be emailed. You can email a plan in progress. It's a way of, it also allows you to add the subject by default is the plan's name. You can put a message however you want in there to go with it. You can also add geographic files that can be used in a GIS if you wish to view it for further processing, or if you know somebody who can, or however. When you click send, you'll get a message that shows you get a message that confirms that you've sent the email. We should have that shortly. There you go. It'll say email sent successfully. There's something else it does behind the scenes. It will send you a confirmation email to the email address you provided when you created your username, so you know it's worked properly. So sharing a plan allows you to share a plan you've created with any user of the site, which they can use as a starting point for their work, which we'll show shortly, but we'll show how to share a plan first, and then I'll show how to use it as a starting point. All you have to do is click Share Plan and give the plan a name. And it gives you a message saying pretty much what I just said. The plan's stored in the server as a shared plan. Any user can use it as a starting point for any plan they want to work on. Any changes that user makes won't affect your shared plan. It's stored separately on the server. The next thing is submit plan. The purpose of this is to, when you submit a plan, it allows staff to view the plan so that we can access the plan and analyze it as necessary. Yeah. What you can do is it's required to fill out your name, your last name, address, all that stuff. You can put a message in there. Every field here is required except for zip code. And when you do submit a plan and you click OK, the software automatically does a check for non-contiguous districts, and it does a check to make sure that the deviations aren't very, very far out of bounds, more than 10 or negative 10%. When you have submitted a plan, you'll get this pop-up that says essentially that submitting a plan here doesn't necessarily mean it gets on the committee agenda. For members of the public or you all, there's a form on the redistricting webpage that you'll need to fill out to advance a plan to get on the meeting agenda as part of the process there.
Madam Chair.
Submitting a plan here allows staff to access the plan. That's here. We're getting near the end, so.
Pete, let's just.
Okay, he did say questions at the end. I forgot about that. Okay.
We're close. Just another couple of minutes, last few topics.
All right.
So one way you can go back, we've submitted a plan. If you go to the upper right and click My Plans, that will take you back to the main menu when you log in. And if you try to create a new plan at the main menu and you choose, instead of Initial tab, you choose Shared, you can see the plan we just shared. And you highlight it and click Create, give it a name, and you can work on the plan we shared. As you can use that as a starting point for a plan that you are creating. The last thing I'll cover, I've already talked about the timeout, 40 minutes. In the upper right, there's, if you have any questions or need assistance or want to contact us, we have a menu for contact. It has the information for the email is redistricting@ocfl.net, or you can call 407-836-5606 as shown in the menu. So that's my quick overview. I'm now happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Pete. And as you all have questions on the committee, please remember to speak loudly into your microphone. I know Mr. Kilsheimer has a comment. We'll wait for him to return.
Certainly.
I wanted to just reiterate for the benefit of the public that when we submit a plan through Maptitude, through this software, that is not actually submitting a map plan for purposes of consideration on the agenda. There's a specific process that is identified on our website that you will need to follow and adhere to, but also that your map at that point is a public document and is shared publicly and available for others to see. Is that correct, Pete?
I mean, every record we generate is public record. When a plan is submitted, it means that staff can access it. When a plan is shared is when anybody using the system can see it. So you can submit a plan without sharing it, can share it without submitting it. Sharing a plan doesn't have any checks for contiguity or any validity checks. Submitted plans have those checks built in. Mostly you'd submit a plan so that staff will have access to it.
Okay. Mr. Kilsheimer?
That was my question. When does a map become a public record? Are all maps saved at all times by every person who uses the system, or is it just members of the committee? When does it become a public record, I guess is my first question.
I'm not a public records expert, but I can tell you that the software, the first thing you have to do to use it is have a username. All the plans you make are stored, whether you've submitted them or emailed them or just made them for your own reference, they're stored on the server. We're planning on storing them throughout the process and keeping a record afterwards. any plan you email. The server keeps records of the plans as you make them. If you make a copy of one or start one from a shared plan, it'll build up on your list. If you submit a plan, that's going to be on the server, keeps track of that as well as shared plans. So.
And then for the purposes of this committee and the work of this committee, is it recommended that we use our Orange County email address as our username?
So there's actual instructions here, and I was going to ask about that as my next question. There's a handout here on the table about usernames.
Yes.
You want to give us some guidance on that? And Ms. Barrios, I don't know if you have any follow-up that you want to provide regarding public records and Sunshine?
So the reason we are recommending that you create usernames as per the guide that we handed out. If you don't have one, we have a few left, so let us know. Is so that it's easier for us to see if you go to open a shared plan, if you go to do that, you can see that at the very beginning, the username, in this case, I'm logged in as OC Demo. The username is part of the shared plan when you go to open a shared plan. So the reason I have the username guidelines is if everybody follows that, all of since the username is part of a shared plan, it'll be easy to identify who made the plan and that they're part of the ACR or not. So I didn't go ahead and make a plan or make users for everybody because I don't want to dictate anybody's passwords. And I don't know all your emails either, but.
Thank you. Ms. Whittington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. I'm guessing by what we saw, the red dots that were there, are those incumbent residents? Is that where, with that
That's
red?
correct,
Okay.
yes. If you open in the options tool or options window, it says commissioners, the red dots are the incumbents' residents. I have, there's a number to indicate which district, but it's also within the district. So, yeah, those are aids to help. Okay. So you know pretty readily, yeah, there's an incumbent there, maybe I'll move it, not. So.
Okay. I see major transportation listed. Is there a way to show a layer with transit and major employers that may be within these districts?
Like railroads and I mean, we don't have it in there currently. It's something we could look into adding. As far as the other one, major employers, is that,
yes.
Okay? I don't know that we actually have good data on that. Do you know if we have major employer data? And even if we do, I don't know if it would be a lot on the map.
Okay.
Because one of the things I've tried to avoid when creating this map is having so much that you can't tell what's what. I don't know that the major employers is going to would work so well. It might make it challenging to see what's where. I don't have the data, so I can't be sure.
All right. Pete, is that something that we could perhaps add to the dashboard maps, and while not maybe be integrated into Maptitude, be something that we could refer to?
I think
if it can be created?
I think we can add. Okay.
If you don't mind. Real
Sure,
quick, sorry.
certainly.
We have data. I'll have to check on how that business data is licensed. I don't know if it's something that we pay for. We don't maintain it ourselves, so I'm not sure we can put that out to the public. But I will check on that, and if we can add it to the dashboard, absolutely. If we're allowed to use it in that way, we can add it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roca?
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Quick comment just for a question, actually, too.
Yes, sir.
Is there a tutorial? I know a lot of individuals are very technology challenged like myself, and
Sure.
a handbook, online handbook is definitely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Also for the public watching, on the Redistricting website, when you look at the census maps, there are a lot of lines, and you need to open them to actually see the headings. I just made that mistake, so I'm not, unique. A lot of people most likely will make the same mistake, so you got to play around with it. And as I said, some of us are. technology challenged to an extent. A good manual will be great. I love reading them. Thank you.
Mr. Alfant?
As much as I appreciate using Google Translator, I was reviewing your Spanish translation, and I would ask Mr. Rocha and Mr. Arias to read it and see if they see the same grammatical mistakes in there. I would appreciate using something else. Google Translator translates literally, and sometimes you can't do that. I appreciate, again, trying.
I have a quick question. Are you talking about the dashboard or the online redistricting site, or both?
When you go and click Spanish when you open the redistricting thing,
Yes.
right there, that it goes into Spanish, it translates, the translation is,
Yeah, it's not that good. Okay.
it's horrible,
Are
for
you
lack of a better
Not
word.
bad, huh?
Are you
All right.
referring to Maptitude, or are you referring to the county's website?
The county website.
Okay, so that's a county website issue that we'll have county staff that's appropriate for that.
Okay.
Work with, well, I'll talk to Jason after the meeting and we'll work on that. But I just think it's important to note that that is a very important issue. We don't control the software. The website, I think we can work on and improve our language, but that's different. And I think there's probably an interpretation service or something that the county probably has access to, so that there's, proper folks for that. We were not going to assign that to committee members or
No,
legal.
that's just a
Okay.
comment for the good. The other question I have, does this software allow me, when I make changes, to see the changes in the Hispanic population? Because I don't see it here.
It does. We've listed the races, as you can see. If you open the districts toolbar as well. There you go. If you open the districts toolbar as well, in the lower left, if you scroll over, the way it's organized is go all the way to the left first, please. The left. All right.
I'm not controlling this.
No, it's all right. The districts are first, and then the population and the deviation, the percent deviation, and then it's all the races in the order that the census listed them, and then Hispanic ethnicity. So other 2+ races, then Hispanic origin, percent Hispanic origin, and then it goes to the voting age population. And if you keep scrolling, you'll see the Hispanic 18+ Hispanic population and non-Hispanic, or percent, sorry.
I was referring really to when I'm doing changes on the map, and I want to look how much has my changes changed, the Hispanic community throwing those lines. Would this software allow me to make sure that the numbers are correct?
Yes, in the changes toolbar on the lower right, when you highlight an area, or my compatriot is doing right now, after you highlight an area, if you watch the changes toolbar or changes window, it'll tell you what those districts will look like if you move those blocks, and including Hispanic.
I didn't see it in the
Scroll
original
down.
box. I apologize.
It's on the box, in the districts box, it goes left to right, and on the changes, it goes top to bottom. But they're there, and they're in the same order.
Okay, not a problem. And just one last request.
Of course.
If you could provide me the 2000 map, I would like to compare District 3s and 4s before the changes of
2000?
11. Yeah.
Do we have? Yeah. You want, so maybe that's
For
something
me,
that would be
I'm
better
not
to go
asking.
into the dashboard. I don't, so he's looking for the 2000.
I'm sure they
Yeah, we
can
could- we
find
could,
that. yeah.
We don't have it, Randy.
We could get that to you, sir, if you'd like. I don't know that, if the committee wants it in the dashboard, we could do that as well. I don't know that this tool's going. Oh, he's got it? Okay.
It'll probably, well, for the good of the
I
committee.
have one, but I'm not sure if mine is correct. Yours appears to be better than mine.
I will email it. I will email it to Jason, and Jason can distribute accordingly.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Just that certain things that happened in 2011.
So it may be beneficial for the sake of everybody here to make sure that the entire committee gets that information.
Yeah.
And let's make sure, not to in any way disparage your map, but since GIS is our map provider, if they have one, let's have them provide it.
Which specific map from 2000 are you requesting? Is there a specific one?
Okay, I'm gonna say something that probably, it's the same map that was submitted to the courts, federal court, in 2012 when the litigation went on, which is the map of how, was comparing the 2000 map and the changes that were made in the 2011 map. So what I'm really trying to do is go back to the 2000 map because there's some changes that were made in 2011 that affected the county in a way.
Okay.
That was not exactly the best, for lack of a better
Okay,
word.
we can get that to you.
Okay, I've got it.
And add that as well to the dashboard for the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, would it be possible, just so we're on the same page, to get a copy of the map you have in hand? We can pull that back, we can go back in our files and get that exact map back out.
I'll give it to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Callen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. The question I had was on the Hispanic ethnicity. I know they count the Hispanic population with the white population, and you deduct it. In your percentages where you put Hispanic here, is that from the overall population, or is that a percentage of the white population?
Overall,
Okay.
it's the percent of total.
Good, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Pete? Mr. Callen?
How many maps can we have in our file folder? 25, 30, 100?
I think the website's set to a limit of 1,000, but I don't know that we'll get there. I hope it'll be an awful lot. If you get close to that, let me know, and we can probably change it.
And we'll be able to print out the maps we draw and such as that, or not?
There's a print feature here. If a map is going to go to the ACR, we'll also make a printable version of it as part of what the ACR receives when
And that would
it's
that include also the report that goes with it?
Yes, that'll be part of it. So if you just want to print a map that you make, you can do it from here.
Madam Chairman, it seems like at some point, whatever we do in our own individual files, if it's stored in county server, it would appear to be a public record, but that's up to the chair and the legal counsel to determine.
That's legal counsel, and I believe that is correct.
Yes, that's correct. Anything that's submitted to this, even if it's not shared, would be a public record as long as the county has received it in some way. It's going to be a public record. There is one point that I had talked to Kate Latour, the attorney who had given the public records presentation last time, that there is an issue with Sunshine regarding sharing maps, the committee members specifically sharing maps through this system. And that is to be careful when you're reusing maps, not to pull another committee member's map, and you'll know because the committee member username, and edit it and then reshare that map, because that would be considered a communication outside of the Sunshine. So you can share your maps just fine, but just make sure that when you're looking at other committee member maps, that if you make changes to that map, that you don't reshare those until we've had that conversation here in the Sunshine of what changes you'd want to have made to those maps.
Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Mr. Alfont?
Just to be historical, the litigation of 2011, every map that was drawn by any member of the committee was subject to the interpretation that it was public records. And just for everybody's knowledge, I encourage you, I beg you to use the emails from the county, because in 2011, personal emails became property because they become discovery. And those of you who are not attorneys, what it means is that your personal email records ended up in federal court. There was a lot of people who were not happy about that. So just as a member, from one member to all of you, I beg you to use the emails that are provided by the county, unless you want your, not that there's going to be litigation this time, but just in case.
Thank you, Mr. Font. Julio?
I just want to suggest maybe if the IT department can suggest a format on how to record them, so that way I don't record them, I don't save them my way, for example, Rocha 2021 something, then that way we all use the same format, and when we have to reference to it, we already know what format to use on how you save the maps. This is just a suggestion because I think it might make things easier to speak to the map, as over here we're like that map, this map, the other map, and nobody really knows what map we're talking about. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Callen?
Another question. I use, compare right documents all the time in my work, and I've also used some compare right documents and maps. So if, for instance, if I come up with a map and Mayor Kilsheimer comes up with a map, and we want to compare the two maps that we come up with, do we have that feature that we could look at, okay, Callan map 1, Kilsheimer map 3, and overlay them and see where they're different?
The tool doesn't have a feature that can overlay that. That's something we could do with our more advanced stuff that we have in the office. This tool is meant to help you create maps, and that's, create plans. That's the purpose here. I don't know if that would come into any kind of sunshine issue too, on account of the sharing.
No, I wouldn't want to do it. I'd want to know that, just tonight, just a suggestion on the future meetings, if we do get down to comparing maps on, certain district changes and all that, it would cut to the chase a lot quicker, being able to have an overview or overlap function. And that can be done by staff, not has to be done by us.
Yeah, we could create those as need, especially when we get near the end.
Okay.
That wouldn't be a problem. We're not planning on doing it as a standard procedure, but we could do it if need be.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Hardage?
Yes, thank you. The protocol we have for username, is this the same protocol for the public?
No, the public doesn't have any protocol. They don't have to. They shouldn't know what that is or use those or use that.
In other words, we should not be passing this out.
I mean, there's recommended usernames for you all. That way we could just tell who made what maps.
So if the public wants to go into the website and create their own map, they would just create a username and password?
Whatever
and save it
username
to
they'd
District
like.
6 or save it to District 2 or however they want to do it?
Correct. They could, any username they'd like, yeah, as long as someone else hasn't used it.
Okay, and then depending on which district they save it to is what we can view, or will we be able to view them all?
Any plan that's shared, any user of the site can view any
Okay.
plan that anybody shares, whether it be from the committee or from a member of the public.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate, there's a difference between sharing the plan and submitting the plan. So they could share it, but not have submitted it for integrity and done the integrity check. So just to be clear, there's a difference.
Gotcha, thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Yes, Mr. Hodge.
Not really a question, Madam Chair, just kind of a general, maybe we can all adopt that we sequentially share or save our maps just starting at 1 and continue. Just next map is 2, 3, 4. So that way when we're getting into discussing maps, we can say, for example, ACR Hodge map 17 is the one that we're looking at. That way we're all somewhat reasonably on the same naming schedule, if that's okay.
I love the idea. I think the only caveat I have is that, we may be considering maps that are not created by us. And so there's no guarantee that the public will utilize the same nomenclature. But I'm with you 1,000%. It will really be a lot easier to say ACR Hodge 17 versus the really good map I came up with, number 2.
So we have the capability in the site. I don't know how you want to proceed, but if a map gets submitted to the committee and by a member or whoever, and is assigned a committee official name, if you were, we can add it to the shared plans. We can go in and put a map with that name into the shared plans. So as maps are submitted, if the committee has a naming convention, there's no need to name the maps you work on. Maybe they would assume that name, and then as part of our process, when it gets presented, we could add it.
I really like that. I think that in one of our prior co-chair meetings, we talked about the idea of nomenclature, and I think that as maps become introduced into our agenda, we need to have a standard nomenclature, and be it name or date or whatever, we'll leave that to staff to establish it. But once it becomes part of a submitted sponsored map, then it needs to have standard nomenclature for everyone.
And we can definitely use the process where we submit the maps onto the information agenda to establish the nomenclature for that map, so that that way the committee members themselves don't necessarily have to bother with that nomenclature. We can just make sure that when we add it to the information agenda, that we follow the nomenclature that we've established as staff to move forward.
That works. Do we have any other questions, comments? Mr. Hodge?
Just a quick clarification. Maps submitted for consideration have to come from one of the board members, correct? So therefore, it would have to be one of our names anyway. Because if a map from the public to be considered would have to come through one of us, so it would fall under that anyway.
So, no. And it's probably best for me to let somebody else answer this, but no, they submitted on Maptitude, and then they subsequently submit the forms. But Ms. Barrios, do you want to walk through that, or?
So we have a form that's on the resources link that's on the redistricting website. And the form is just, has the username, it has the map name, and the public would tell you what their map name is, so that staff could pull that map from the system. So we would get a public map name, whatever the member of the public named their map, to pull at the request of a committee member through that sponsorship form.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
That clear for everybody? It seems like we've run out of questions at this very moment, but I am certain that we will have many, many more. This is a robust piece of technology that equips us with a lot of tools to do the work that's before us. I encourage you to spend a lot of time playing with it so you can kind of get a feel for how it moves and does not move. Practice making maps, in checking plan integrity. One of the things that was mentioned before, just because a map may have map integrity, plan integrity on this website does not necessarily mean that it won't be subject to other scrutiny that legal will handle as well, and staff will provide a report on as maps become sponsored maps that are included in our agenda. But please, members of the public, avail yourselves of the resources online. And we thank you very much, Pete, Dean, Marissa, all of you for your work. And I know it's a lot, but it's important work, so thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next part of our agenda, is a presentation from Mr. Floto.
Okay. Good evening, committee. My name is Patrick Floto. I'm the data reporting coordinator for the Orange County Supervisor of Elections. I didn't bring my business cards today, but I did leave my contact information up there on the slide. Thank you very much. And I have a grand total of 5 slides. I'll get this done pretty briefly, so you could feel free to ask questions at any time you like during the process. It is consecutive, though, so just please pay attention. So quite simply, what we do is we take the sum of your work as well as your counterparts in the Florida legislature redistricting committees and the school board redistricting committees, and we summarize them into how the voters interact with the districts, which are called precincts. So overall, what you guys do, what was presented on by Pierre Johnstone, the work you'll be doing over the next several months is redistricting, which determines what voters are voting on. and that is based on population. You've heard a lot about census data. You haven't heard anything about precincts or turnout or anything like that. What we do at the SOE is we take your results as well as the results of the Florida legislature and the school board, and we turn those into precincts. And a precinct is simply an administrative boundary for a polling place that serves a set number of district combinations. As you know, we can't have 550 different ballot styles at one location. We have to have a set number so we could maintain an accurate and distinct count. And our precincts are based on a voter population and where they reside. So I kind of illustrated it over here. So this is School Board District 3. And as you can see, the School Board District 3 is this large shaded area on the right. And you see the little green circle in the lower and southeast corner of that, south of the 417. And you could see the corresponding green circle that covers the same area on our precinct map, which is precinct 430. And you can kind of see how the two interact with each other. So precinct 430 has 4 different ballot styles, depending on how many different districts are up for election that year. And you can kind of see how they get colored and shaded in different colors and how we maintain the summary of the work from this committee as well as the Florida legislature and the school board. So this is just a breakdown on how we draw precincts out of the work you've done. So in this imaginary scenario from the Lake Nona Laureate Park area, if any of you are familiar with it, is let's just imagine that this board decided the County Commission District 2 would be drawn along the Central Florida Greenway in the orange area with the southern boundary of Lake Nona Boulevard and Tavistock Lakes Boulevard. And County Commission District 3 would be drawn south of that between the county line on the south, Lake Nona Boulevard, and Tavistock Lakes Boulevard on the north. And on the right is how we would possibly turn those into precincts. So for those of you who have done any electioneering canvassing, you might notice that the first digit of all of our county precincts correspond with the county commission district. So the work you guys do is really the base of what we do. And what we do, these are called the base precincts, these 3-digit precincts. These must be approved by the county commission before we go forward. But then the second part, which is where things get quite complicated, but I'll keep it quite simple for the process for this presentation, is let's just imagine that this represents the collective wisdom of the legislature and drawing House Districts 119 in purple and House Districts 120 in blue. So you could see that their boundaries in this imaginary scenario differ slightly from your county commission boundaries. They decided to draw their southern boundary of House District 119 along Laureate Boulevard as opposed to Tavistock Lakes Boulevard, but it's still in District 399. So this scenario would create the following split precincts, which do not have to be approved by the county commission. And as of today, we have 247 base precincts, and I believe it's 551 split precincts. So in this scenario, 299S, which would be the purple area, would be County Commission 2 and House District 119. Then you go down to the southwest and you see the orange area, and that would be 398S, which would be County Commission 3, House District 120. Then you would see the green area to the southeast, that is 399A. Note the A is County Commission 3 and House District 120. But then you also have 399B, Bravo, which is County Commission 3 and House District 119. Now, everyone in 399, whether or not they're in Alpha or Bravo, they'll likely be attending the same polling place. And polling places aren't necessarily created equal. When we draw these precincts, we actually kind of look at election day turnout, early voting turnout, vote by mail turnout, as well as the capacity of the polling place. For example, there is a much bigger difference in the capacity of Orlando Fire Station 16, which we use in Lake Nona area, and something like Faith Assembly Church on Curry Ford Road, which is a massive mega church. So all those factors are taken into consideration. So we cut down on the wait time of voters to cast their vote and make their voices heard on election day. For example, we attempt to keep our precincts within a range of approximately 3,000 to 5,000 voters, but that number adjusts depending on the percentage of those voters that vote early or vote by mail. For example, if a larger percentage vote by mail and vote early, we could cram more into a smaller precinct because the election day polling place won't be as overwhelmed. And that concludes my slides. Any questions?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Floto? Well, Patrick, I think either it's really complicated or we're
I try to put it as simple as
fried
possible.
a little bit. No, this is helpful. And I think that we all can probably sit here and say, we're glad we only have to come up with 6 districts, not what you do. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We have no other items on our agenda. Does anyone have anything that they would like to share for the good of the order? Mr. Arias. Oh, yes, our next meeting is going to be October 7th at 6:30 at Barnett Park. That information will be on our website, as well as all the information regarding all of our future meetings. All the locations and times have been confirmed, and that information is available on our website. But yes, October 7th at 6:30 p.m. at Barnett Park.
Is there a building there?
Yes, it's a magic gym, a recreational facility right there
And are we meeting in the gymnasium or one of the other rooms?
in the gymnasium.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hardage.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to move we adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Hardage, a second by Mr. Hodge. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're out of here. Thank you.